So a big hand for Tim Morgan.
Okay, many of you know my story. I was pastor for 15 years, ended up starting small businesses, buying, building, selling, merging businesses over the last probably 25 years. When I was 16, I started my first little business. So we've had a lot of fun over the years trying to figure that out. But in the last about 5 years, we've had a chance to help businesses with their marketing. And one of the most fun things that I get a chance to talk about is something called the 5 languages of business. Some people call it the 5 languages of appreciation. And so I'm going to take 5 minutes and just go over that today. And it'll maybe help you in your business, especially with referrals. Referrals specifically, we recommend 20% of your time, your resources, your budget go into referrals as a system, just by itself. And so I'm going to go through them. I sent everybody most everybody a link this morning, so if you have your phones open, you can follow along with what I'm going to say. Otherwise, you can look at it later. The first of the 5 languages of business, and this is by Gary Chapman and another author. The first one is gifts. When we're referring folks and when we're building relationships with our clients, we want to make sure and incorporate some type of gift giving within the year for our clients, whether it's on their birthdays or whether it's on a special occasion. Sometimes it's random, like Lori and I put out, I don't know how many we did, but in July we did a Christmas in July kind of a thing, so that's kind of fun. But, talk to Lori about more creative ideas on the gift giving. The second one is actually affirmation. So when you're in a networking group or when you're talking to your client or customer, it's important that when they come up to the front desk or whenever you're meeting with them, to compliment them on something, because many people find that more valuable than anything else. Just some kind of compliment. Just as a heads up, there's tests for this to find out what your business language is. There's a famous book that can help in your other relationships called The 5 Love Languages as well, by Gary Chapman. But it was so successful that they wrote a book on business having to do with these languages. Mine happens to be affirmation. So if you come up to me and compliment me in one way, shape, or form, I'm going to be high as a kite for the next couple of hours at least. And so that's just good to know kind of what you are as far as someone who communicates in these type of ways. The next one is service. They call it acts of service in the original book. This is a book that I give to anybody that I am performing their wedding. The 5 Love Languages. It's just a phenomenal book. And then the business one is based on the same principles. Acts of service is basically anything you can do that would bless somebody, that would help somebody in a way that doesn't seem too connected to the fact that you want something in return. So it's really giving your time or your skills in order to help somebody in a way that you maybe overheard they needed. It could be as simple as opening a door for somebody. It could be, there's so many examples. If we have more time, I do presentations on this. We have more time, we could talk about these kind of things. But acts of service are really, they need to be incorporated more into our companies in general, because it creates this brand for who you are that's phenomenal. And if you notice that somebody responds to that, you might want to make a mental note. Okay, so I helped them with this, but then they gave me this much business. Or I helped them with this, and then they ended up giving me 2 more referrals. Or just, if you start gauging this and kind of making mental notes, some people even put a little symbol next to their clients and customers to see, to kind of recognize what their customers are responding to as far as these 5 languages. The next one is time, quality time. It's not quantity time, it's quality time. So think like with your spouse or your significant other. It's a date versus just going to a concert and being around a crowd, or going to a business event, being around a crowd. It's a one-on-one. It's very intentional. One thing I would caution on this one is if this is your language, or if this is your customer's language, Be careful not to have too many of these hour-and-a-half long conversations with your clients and customers. Try to have those boundaries, maybe even a filter to find out if this is really what's needed in this situation. Me and many of us in the room have, like a quick phone call, 10, 15, 20-minute phone call to find out if it's a good fit as far as customer relationships. And then we'll go into like a longer time together, and that's more the quality time where you're really digging in. Our one-on-ones, when we get together and have these times together, those are the quality times within the group. The last one is kind of controversial. It's touch. And so when you go up to somebody, depending on who they are, some people freak out when you touch them, right? So you have to read the body language. 80% of, no, don't freak out. 80% of our communication is body language, right? So when I get kind of nervous or like not sure what, my cheeks turn red. I get kind of, I'm redhead, so that happens a lot. But, a quick side hug or a fist bump or the good old-fashioned handshake, how you give a handshake, that business appropriate touch is huge when you're connecting with your clients, customers, or even in a network situation. And so in order to build that rapport, I recommend considering the 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace is what the book is called, but the 5 languages of business is what we call it within our organization. So any questions? Yeah?
Quick tips to distinguish each of those, like characteristics within your upline maybe somebody.
Well, first of all, the tip I would say is find out what yours is first, because then you're kind of vested into the observation. We tend to give what we actually find valuable as far as a language. So about 75% of the time, we'll just do that instinctively. And then you'll find those people will naturally become your clients easily because you're building that.
Are you going to give us a questionnaire too so that you can determine what our love language, business language is?
I'm trying to remember if I put it in that article I sent you.
I don't see it.
Google 5. It's actually in the article, the name of the book. Google that book and you'll find a survey. 5 love languages survey is probably the easiest to find, honestly.
Is there really a 5 business?
There is. Yeah, it was that popular that they kind of dovetailed on it.
But you look great today. Serious note, you've worked with my office manager Diana and done a fantastic job of bringing her where she needs to help me do the social media. We gave her the website up. It's been about 7 months, 8 months. Just a fantastic job, and I got to tell you, thank you. Appreciate it.